Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dinner time is here. That's right, we're talking Hannibal Season 2, Episode 7 on Dish by Dish. Greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the Baltimore Institute for the Criminally Insane. This is Dish by Dish, a Hannibal rewatch project where we watch an episode of the great series Hannibal, and then we talk about it. And of course, there is only one person I trust, that if I bury somebody in a hole and steal their arm, she'll look them up, when I send them a clue. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
It's the least I can do.
Really, honestly. I mean, I didn't mean to leave that person in a hole, but now that I've got them there, I might as well use them.
An alternate take is that, if you were fleeing the federales because somebody planted 3 dead bodies in your house, I would absolutely stall the cops while you could escape out the back door.
But would you let me take a shower, Gina? This is the $1 million question. And the one that I am haunted by here, where Will just goes, yeah, you've tormented me for a really long time. Take a shower. Take a shower. It's fine.
Well, it's in keeping with this because everybody in this episode acts real fucking weird.
In fact, I think this is the tipping point where the early part of the first half of the season, obviously with Will incarcerated, is going to have a more leveled tone to it because he's trapped in one place. And from this episode on, every episode gets weirder and weirder and trippier and trippier. Like, not since Mushroom Bodies have we had this amount of crazy go nuts that happens from now until episode 13.
Yeah, I made a note to myself that basically said, everybody's acting like they recently suffered a massive head injury.
Sure. Yeah. And some of them have. Some of them have been locked away in a murder basement.
Oh, I'm not even talking about poor Miriam Lass. I'm talking about people who, up to this point, had been pretty rational.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking one Miss Alana Bloom.
Yeah. Sure. Let's get into this because this is a very interesting turn from her. And I think as much as I love this half of the season, this is one of those things where I'm kind of mystified. Is it just because that Will tried to have Hannibal killed and then all of a sudden she goes, maybe I need that dick?
Yeah, well, we talked about this with our episodes with Beth, is that it doesn't feel like they had no sexual chemistry up to that point, whereas she had a lot with Will.
Sure.
But
yeah.
like it did, Alana and Hannibal coming together sort of feels like, well, I guess it's just us. I mean,
but people have gotten together under weirder circumstances. That is a thing that combines people all around the world every single day.
But it still feels a little, well, we need to illustrate that Alana has changed somehow. So let's have her just inexplicably and abruptly jump into the sack with Hannibal. Like, someone up to this point that she had thought of strictly as a mentor, maybe even almost in a paternal sort of sense.
Sure.
I mean, not that he's quite old enough to be her father, but there's definitely more of a parent-child relationship up to that point.
Or someone that she's sat at the feet of, And,
right.
But I think she's genuinely unmoored. And I think Hannibal takes the opportunity here that if he's going to lose leverage of Will being incarcerated, the other way to sort of retain a modicum of leverage is to sort of emotionally hold Alana hostage and let Will know about it.
Right, and Will is he is let out of the insane asylum because it turns out, well, I guess you didn't do it after all.
If all the evidence starts to point in different directions, yes, it's a real turn of fate, that's for sure.
But he comes home. Alana has still, in her favor, still been taking care of his dogs.
Mhm.
But he comes up that driveway. She's coming out with a big old sourpuss at him. When are you gonna accuse Hannibal again? Lady, he just got out of the fucking insane asylum. Just give him a break. He literally got out that day.
It's a real turnoff to her. She just doesn't like it when her potential boyfriends send serial killers after the serial killer she's about to jump in bed with.
Wait, I mean, that she already had jumped in bed with by that point. And
is it at that point?
Oh, well, I mean,
it is. Yes,
when she confronts him when he's coming home, yeah, that already happened.
Oh, yeah, very sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's just like immediately confrontational with him. She's got the little sour face, and Will is as nonplussed as ever. It's almost like he kind of knows what's going on. That the alliances have changed
because she's no longer one of his strays. I think is the statement being made there. That she wasn't just waiting around keeping his dogs warm for him to get out of the insane asylum. She's going to make moves on her own because I think she could handle Will being sick, but I think she's convinced by the point that Will sends a killer after Hannibal that he's actually quite sane. And that's the most disappointing thing of all. It's still a wild leap to have her jump into bed with Hannibal, other than the fact that I think all of us would jump into bed with Hannibal.
Besides that, yeah, fine. You're not wrong. I just feel like as the characters, though, it's not. It doesn't sit well with me.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think that at some point they felt they needed to do something different with Alana's character.
Sure,
so
yeah.
they kind of did this a little too abruptly. But I have to remember that again, as we've said numerous times at this point, this show exists in a world that looks like ours, but isn't quite ours. So people are going to do things that don't make sense.
And speaking of things that don't make sense, but then suddenly make a lot of sense, is Miriam Lass. Now, we last saw her in season 1, and she was sort of a Silence of the Lambs Clarice precursor that Jack had sent out to try to weed out where the Chesapeake Ripper might be. And almost as if he's using her as a lure. And he gets exactly what he wants, only not in the way he wants it. She attracts the attention of the Ripper and then is kidnapped by Hannibal, and we assume killed up until the point Jack is led to the pit where she happens to be, simply one forearm on down less than when she went in.
Yeah, the other thing I have to keep in mind is a pattern in this show is people not knowing how to handle being wrong about things.
Yeah.
And to the point where it kind of melts their brain a little bit. And
Sure.
and I think that's, I should probably be a little easier on Alana because I mean she hasn't been wrong is the thing, but she thinks that she has. And well, I mean she is wrong about Hannibal, but she has not been wrong that Jack has damaged Will in forcing him to help out in these trying to solve these horrible murders. She's not wrong. There's something wrong with Will. She is wrong about Hannibal, but she doesn't realize that she is continuing to be. I'm not making sense here.
Why make sense? The show refuses to do it. Why should we?
Basically, it comes down to Jack and Alana both struggle with being very, being up to this point very assured that they know what they're doing. They're very smart. They're very insightful. And then discovering over and over again how very wrong they are.
Well, I mean, and they've also been, on a sort of bungee cord of understanding of what's happening around them, where they keep getting bounced from one extreme to the other. And as a result, it goes from there's no way that Will would be a killer. Okay, Will is obviously having troubles. Okay, Will is having some sort of recurring episode. Will is obviously sick. Oh, wait a second. Will threw up an ear. Will is a serial killer. Well, Will is the Chesapeake Ripper. Will also killed Abigail and was a copycat of the Minnesota Shrike. Well, wait a second. There's a killer who's still out there. Wait a second. One of our colleagues tried to hunt that person down and was sawed in half many times and put into a frozen display. Oh, wait a second. There's evidence that Will might be innocent. Wait, that's not admissible in court. Oh, wait a second. We found a completely different trail to the Chesapeake Ripper, and it might happen to be another person we all know who has terrible decision-making habits, and that's Dr. Chilton.
Particularly Jack's like, oh, of course it's Dr. Chilton. It's like, oh, of course?
I mean, there's nothing about the portrayal of Chilton in this series that would lead you to believe that dude's a serial killer. Now, that dude's a sleazebag.
Yeah,
that's an easy leap.
He's craven, and he should probably he should almost certainly have his psychiatrist credentials removed. But he's, I mean, Will gets it right. He's like, you're not a killer, Frederick.
Yeah, he really is.
And I think like everybody is so desperate to solve this case at this point that, if you deducted that a ham sandwich did it, they would be like, well, of course it's a ham sandwich.
Look at that crust. Is there mayonnaise on there? I knew it.
And then, Jack would come barreling into the deli and Will would get his way. Get out of my way, Will. Pull out a very tiny pair of handcuffs. How do you put handcuffs on a ham sandwich? I have no idea, but Jack can figure it out. He's a smart guy.
Well, you would not use handcuffs, Jeannie. You would use ham cuffs. Anyways.
Good night, everybody.
Listen, where can people find you on these here internet? It's not going to get any better than that. And when I say better, I mean, oh my God, worse. But Miriam Lass represents a weird time bomb. So Hannibal, my question to you is, obviously he couldn't have foreseen the whole Chilton thing, nor could he have seen the whole will of it all when he kidnapped Miriam Lass.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's not to say that he goes, well, I kidnapped this person and they're like a weird insurance policy for me, where if I ever need to fuck with Jack again on a massive scale, this would be the way I would get back at the FBI. And I assume he didn't know exactly how he would use that puzzle piece, but once a picture starts to form, he starts sanding the edges and maybe lopping off one forearm, let's say, so it fits where he wants it to. And he says, look at that picture. And it throws everybody but Will off.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, do we know for certain that Lecter didn't know Chilton, at least as a colleague or something before all this?
I assume he knew Chilton, but I don't know that he definitely, to date, discovered that he was psychically driving, what's his face? The other guy,
Abel Gideon, yeah.
Abel Gideon. So, that's where I think he starts to go, you're in my target sights now. That before that, he might have been annoying at parties and he might have considered maybe killing him one day and eating him. But I don't think he was like, oh, I'm going to kidnap an FBI trainee and target this guy in advance. Absolutely not. But I think he sees how he can kill a bunch of birds with one stone. And he just so happens to have kidnapped that stone several years earlier. So once he learned about the whole psychic driving thing and experimented on it with Will, I think he's like, hey, this is something that works. I'm going to do it with Miriam as well. And he starts to set that up.
I just like the idea that he has Miriam just stored away in case of emergencies, like you have some extra blankets in a closet in your house, right. in case you have an overnight guest.
Guest pillows or whatnot, like a spare toothbrush that your dentist gives you. You're like, I'm not going to use this. I got a fancy one, but I'll keep it in the spare bathroom just in case they need to brush their teeth.
I want to know what kind of intense hypnotherapy you could put someone through where you can convince them that you're speaking in the voice of an entirely different person.
Yes, especially when you have You are not doing an American accent.
Oh no.
You're not speaking as someone who could ever be mistaken for an American citizen. But it seems to work like gangbusters on poor Miriam. She's been through fucking enough. She gets talked into, hey, I'm going to take off that arm. Okay, so you go sleepy time, night. And I'm just going to and take that bad boy off of you. And you'll be a couple, pounds lighter after the fact. And she's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, it's another long game that he's playing that's very interesting.
But he's so bad at shifting gears in the moment and so good at planning in advance. And I do like that the show is kind of consistent in that. Like he can try to scramble, but his I got to do this on the fly plans don't always work out. Like in season 1, they seem to work out a little bit better, but here he's like, oh, there's a lot of balls in the air. This isn't quite for me. I got to figure out a new way to do this. Oh yeah, I remember. I got a trainee in a pit I can use.
It's like in case of fire, break glass, remove trainee.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Miriam Lass, God bless her, is the ultimate get out of jail free card because she, now that Hannibal has driven her towards Chilton, all he has to do is set up Chilton in a manner and like no one will believe Chilton. So he just like shows up to the house and is like, hey, dude, some FBI agents are outside. I'm going to kill them. I'm totally going to blame you. And no one's going to believe you if you say anything different. Bye. He just goes ahead and does it.
Apparently he manages to overpower 2 FBI agents.
Not the first time he's overpowered 2 cops at once. Let's put that out there. This show very much has a Magnum PI idea of how easy it is to knock out police and officers or federal officers for that matter.
Yeah, you're in for some shit when Hannibal has the tailored kill suit on.
You fucked up, but good in that department. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to wonder, like, how soon did he plan the whole? I think it's as soon as he heard about the whole Abel Gideon psychic driving thing that he's just like, oh, Chilton, I'm gonna fuck you up someday. Somehow.
Yeah, and I sort of feel like he is offended as a psychiatrist at that.
Yes, very much so. Especially because he doesn't trust Chilton.
It also offended that he's forcing someone to take credit for his work.
It's twofold. Chilton does not have the skill to do this. And so he's like, listen, if you're going to do this, first of all, you should have a fucking brain in your head. I'm going to fuck with Chilton. I'm going to fuck with you, and I'm going to fuck with Abel Gideon, and I'm going to fuck with Will, and then I'm going to fuck with Miriam Lass. Like he just lays it all out and bam, 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 bam. He's able to manipulate a lot of fucking people here. And he got to get Abel Gideon to eat the rest of his limbs.
I mean, we assume, yeah.
One assumes. I mean, he at least had one meal. You have to assume that he had the rest at a certain point. Wonder how he tastes. According to Abel, he tastes fantastic. But Will's advice to Chilton, right as he's walking out is like, come clean to Jack. Don't hide this shit. Your only way out is through. And Chilton goes, not good enough for me. Too prideful. His career just means too much to him. And he tries to hedge his bets. And guess what? He totally got served up by fucking Hannibal Lecter.
And I love a beefy Jack trying to run through that snow.
It's not his medium. It also doesn't help that he's in like 14 layers worth of clothes.
Yes.
There. It's not great for your mobility. Also, when it comes to Chilton's house, what kind of guest room is tiled from the floor to the ceiling? Does he have like Australian bar patrons come over and stay with him?
Yeah. Will is an eccentric fellow, to say the least.
Well, that's in Chilton's
Chilton.
house.
Oh, Chilton's
That's
house
where he
looks like
finds Abel Gideon.
Chilton's house has like it's eerie because it's one of those houses that has like no personality.
Right.
Like he like he's like walking to his house, everything's all like white. There's no artwork on the walls. It just looks like one of those like extended stay hotels.
Yeah, it also sets him up to look like a serial killer, like 100%. Like Hannibal Lecter has a place full of personality and obviously has pursuits. And Chilton looks like he might be, an alien insert, as it were, just snooping on people.
Well, yeah, I think that Chilton. I mean, and I'm not a psychiatrist. Chilton is probably would qualify as a sociopath. And I think that he is trying very hard to act like a normal person. And then when he is at home, he could relax and not be a normal person. Which is, God bless that is, what all of our homes are for is the places where we can act like not normal people.
Yeah.
But, it's like the place where he exists, not where he lives.
True.
And I found that very jarring in and of itself. Like I do find that Chilton is at his most pitiful in this episode because, again, like a lot of characters in this, he thought he was smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
And then realized that, he was very, very wrong about that.
And then you have the scene that I remember watching. Like I remember the room we were in. I remember what I was drinking when it happened. And that is when Miriam, all of the flashbacks that she had walls up against begin to crumble when she hears Chilton's voice, which Hannibal has convinced her was the person who held her captive. And her response is to grab a gun and just shoot that motherfucker on sight.
So that's injury number 2 for Chilton. Shot in the face. I mean, I guess we might as well spoil it. He does somehow manage to survive this, but on the other hand, he did also survive being disemboweled. So yeah, I was going to say that he is related to the Michael Myers family of possibly supernaturally invincible human beings.
Yeah, he's quite the weasel. Like he can't quite be put down. Also, the first time Gideon just wanted to humiliate him, essentially, is what he wanted to do. He wanted to gravely injure him and then put the possibility of his survival in someone he didn't care about's hands. And here, this particular one could only have been avoided if he knew how it was going to play out. And Miriam's a good shot. She would have made a great FBI agent. She shoots that dude straight through the face. And oh my God, the cackle that comes out of me every single time I watch it.
When you learned later that he had actually survived being shot in the face, were you like, oh, come on?
I mean, yeah, at the time I'm like, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's so wild. And then when it happened again, I retained every ounce of the initial joy. Nothing was taken away from it. And this was the hardest it has ever been for me not to automatically say, play the next episode. From this point on, I just want to stream the fuck out of it and just go. Like notes are for jerks. I don't have a fucking podcast to make, and just watch, because it's that fucking compelling. And that the entire world didn't erupt and, oh my God, this is the best show on television when this happened, is a giant failing we should all be sorry about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think that by this point, you people who were sticking with it were sticking hardcore with it. But by that point, it had been such a small audience that I don't even think there was even, I don't even recall that there was much of a social media discourse of it, except maybe on like Tumblr, but you're mostly
I've had some
naked pictures of Hannibal and Will making out with each other. I mean,
yeah, it's nothing like right now because we're kind of tied in, luckily, due to sort of the Hannibal Nation, Hannibal family, Fannibals forever sort of hashtag campaign of when we release a new episode, they're like, oh, here's the thing that you should get. So we're very happy to have them on board. We'd love to have more of them, but their enduring need to see these two guys fuck, I think is heroic. And I completely understand it. Well, just look at them. So let's just go straight into Choose Your Own Deathventure, and that's where we decide of the deaths presented in a particular episode. If you were forced to die that way, which one would you choose and why? So your choices today are 3, but they are mighty. Have each of your limbs removed, probably for your own consumption, stabbed and fucking gutted, or become the wound man on what appears to be his kitchen island.
Oh, I like that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
The just using every possible implement one may have in a kitchen drawer, just stabbing him into someone. I enjoy that one.
And not the only wound man that's been in the show. Like, we've had several wound mans. So it really is something special. Yeah, there's no way I'm going for limbs removed for consumption. And I think gutting would probably hurt a lot. I have to assume the guy who's the wound man probably, takes a shot to the dome one way or the other and probably isn't around for the constant jabbing. So I would take wound man as well.
I was going to say, after like the 4th or 5th, corkscrew or olive fork that's, stuck into your torso, you're probably going to at least pass out after a little while.
Yeah, I would agree. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I am on Twitter under Porcelain72. I write about movies and television at thespool.net, and I'm also participating in a little side project with our podcast colleagues Joe and Jen on White Ladies in Crisis, in which we are talking about the Apple TV Plus, Apple Plus TV. I always forget. TV series Physical.
All right. Check it out. Of course, you can find us on all our socials. We'd love it if you rate and review us on iTunes. We have a t-shirt shop here, and we'd love your input. We'd love your support there. We've got some great stuff. Some great stuff already been sold. And we don't have a Hannibal thing yet. So if you have a Hannibal idea or you have a Hannibal design, some sort of fan art, something along those lines, start suggesting it to us. We'd love to hear from you about it. It is open and we share with our artists. So that just about does it. Next week, we have more Kill by Kill coming your way. But until then, for myself and for Gina, the body count will continue. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.